Hi everyone, I'm KiwiSimsKate and welcome to my channel. Welcome if you're new here. I do speed builds and currently I'm uploading my videos every 2 weeks just because I also work full time. I also stream on Twitch, so this is kind of the fastest I can get all of them out, and at the moment I'm not ahead of time in my scheduling. So one day I'd love to have videos backed up that I can release and therefore bring them out to you guys a lot quicker. But welcome in. Today we are working on a mid-century modern family home. And this is a style that I really, really love. I've done a lot of sort of searching online for inspiration pics, but I kind of have an idea anyway in my head of what I wanted to do with this. I knew I wanted it to be single level, for example. Mid-century modern homes do tend to be bungalow style, meaning just a single level. I knew I wanted to have a few, especially out the backyard, big windows, which is also another feature of mid-century modern homes. And I wanted to include a basement, which I don't often put in my builds. So near the end of the video, you'll see that's one of the very last things that I do is furnish the basement. And it's a really cool little hangout area. I will put this build on the Sims gallery as well, so you can download it and play it. It's all been play tested, so you should have no trouble with your Sims in this home. So first off, I'm working on the layout, and I actually got the layout pretty close to a picture I found on Pinterest. The outside is much more of just my own kind of what was in my head, but the layout of where the rooms are and how the kind of kitchen and living room flowed, that was definitely from the inspiration that I found on Pinterest, which I use quite a lot to do my Sims builds, especially if I'm trying to build something that's a style that I'm not familiar with, or maybe a style that's influenced by another culture that I don't see all the time, because I am a Kiwi, so I live in New Zealand, and we do have quite a few different styles of homes, but they are very much kind of probably based on a British style. They're all fairly new. We don't have a lot of very old homes. And yeah, I like to try a few different things that maybe are not so familiar to what I know. This home is a 3-bedroom home, so it's a family home. There's also the basement, so if you wanted to convert that into like a teen hangout bedroom, you could do that. And I furnished this house so that it can fit parent Sims, 2 parents, and with a double bedroom, and then there's a toddler bedroom with 2 toddler beds, and then there's a child's room with a single bed, but it's the top bunk bed. So if you wanted, you could just remove or move around some of the objects in that room and place another child's bed underneath the top bunk if you wanted. And you can fit a lot more Sims in here. The living space is quite large. There's actually 2 living rooms, sort of a more of a living TV room, and then also kind of like just a family room that's got a toy box, one of the objects, not the usable ones, just the decor items, but that one is close to the kitchen, so I figure that's somewhere maybe the kids hang out while the parents are cooking or getting breakfast ready or something. So there's plenty of space to move and shuffle things around if you wanted to with this house, but the layout is there, and there's an ensuite that actually runs between the parents' bedroom and the toddler's bedroom. So you have access through both of the bedrooms, which I thought was a little bit different, something different to do. And then there's a main bathroom, which is pretty small actually. It has a shower tub combo, and a sink and a toilet, and yeah, there's not much else that can fit into that room. But I also included a laundry so that you could remove that and make yourself a larger bathroom if you wanted. The toilet is separate, as well, so you have a separate toilet room to your bathroom. I love this style of build. I don't know what about it that I love so much. I think there's just something about the aesthetic of this design style that I think is really sleek and timeless. I love the wood grains that you often find in mid-century modern design mixed with the stone. So I really just love those two kinds of materials mixed together. I also love all this kind of split levels that you often find in this kind of design. And I personally prefer a single level house just in real life to a double story house, just for practicality. So I really love that aspect of it as well. Here I'm just adding a little kind of carport area, a little garage, and finishing up the exterior of the house. And then I really work on the outside of the house first. So I do the landscaping and I do the backyard. And I never really thought about this, but I heard from someone else on their channel that I can't remember who it was now though, but they were saying it's a good idea to work on the interior of your home before you start your landscaping, because often you might want to actually adjust things from the interior. Once you start to get a better idea of what the space is going to be like inside, you might actually want to increase or sometimes even decrease the size of the rooms or the size of your house. Lift the levels as well, lift your foundation, which can sometimes mess with your plants if you're using the debug plants, which I do a lot of. So I think in future I'm going to try and work on the interior of a home first. I just sort of naturally fall back on working the outside in, but I thought that was a really good point, because if you've done this beautiful garden that you really love and you're really sold on, and then you move to the inside and you want to add an entirely new room, that's going to really cut away your amazing landscaping that you've done. So very good point, and something that I will definitely consider in my future builds. Here in the backyard, I definitely wanted to include a pool. I felt that was very Palm Springs vibe. Palm Springs being an area with a lot of mid-century modern designed homes. A lot of this kind of long, low, flat with lots of window panes and often pools. Mostly, I guess, because it's just in such a warm area. And I almost built a separate little room out there in the back that you see me kind of half build and then demolish, because I wasn't really sure why I wanted it there. So I didn't want to just put something there for the sake of it. I considered maybe making it into a glass house, and then I thought the family that I imagined living here is probably not hugely into gardening. This is built in Oasis Springs, so it's a fairly dry world. Probably not a lot of planting going on. There's a lot of cactuses and a much drier climate plants. So I didn't like the idea of a glass house. And then I thought maybe it could be kind of like a pool house, where the Sims got changed, or maybe some kind of a gym. But honestly, I didn't think that. I think the family that lives here has a bit of money because it is a nice house, but they're not really loaded. So I feel like something like a pool house or a separate gym is probably just a bit too fancy for the Sims who I imagined would live here. So I scrapped that idea. And then I kind of like what I did anyway, instead, where I used a lot those little windows. They're technically a window, but they're the kind of little cutout designs, square designs, with that very sort of geometric pattern. So yeah, I use that quite a lot around the place. Again, that's very mid-century modern style. So I utilized it both inside and outside this build. And of course, loads and loads of succulents everywhere, both just to blend in with the world of Oasis Springs, but also because, again, it's a Palm Springs type vibe, mid-century modern. It all sort of ties in together. Here I had a lot of trouble with the platform tool, and I haven't really spent a ton of time with the platforms, playing around with it and seeing, what the capabilities of it are. So I tried to lift this little piece up that I had already built the little front garden bed on, and I couldn't, and so then I had to sort of delete what I'd done and then move it over again, and yeah, I got it in the end, but there was probably a much easier way I could have managed it. I just didn't know, and I sort of got a bit frustrated with it, so I did it the long way round. And then I went in and added a bunch more landscaping around the house. As I said, they're not really big gardeners, but they just like their house to sort of look presentable. And yeah, I think a house in The Sims, a build always needs some kind of landscaping to make it look a lot more realistic. It just brings it to life as well. And I love the green, so to me, the more plants, the better. But I kind of did, for this build at least, I went for a somewhat minimalist landscaping around the outside with the succulents. So I didn't want loads and loads of bushes everywhere, because I feel like that would have been too lush for the environment, and this place doesn't get, well, in theory you would think Oasis Springs doesn't get as much rain as maybe some of the other worlds, so it does tend to have drier soils, drier plants that can survive for a long time without water. Now I'm moving on to the backyard. So I've made it mostly patio with this rock floor tile, and I wanted to have it be quite a good space for entertaining and just hanging out as a family as well. So there had to be an area where they could sit around and eat together. So I wanted the dining table, and later I add in a little barbecue. Had to have a pool so they could teach their kids to swim or just float on the lilo. Had to have somewhere to just relax in the beautiful hot sun. So I added the lounges. I almost forgot what they were called there. I was going to call them stretchers. Added the lounges, and then later I also, by the lounges, I give them a few other activities for the kids. So there's those the water balloon bucket. I add that. I add a towel so they can lay out in the sun. And then on the other side in the backyard, next to the patio, I wanted to put a little outdoor barbecue pit area. So not so much a barbecue, fire pit really. Yeah, a fire pit with some seating. So I add that in, and then a sand pit, which I know I've sort of had that in the back of my mind for a long time, and I've always sort of known how to do it, but I've never really added it into any of my builds, I don't think. I can't remember anyway. So in this build I wanted to make sure that the kids that they had, because I made the toddler's room with 2 beds, assuming that this family had 3 young children, I wanted to make sure there were plenty of activities for them to do, and they could, gain as many well-rounded skills as possible. So in the sandpit, I actually place one of those activity table things, the kind of roundish ones. And then there's some more activities inside for the kid and the toddlers, as well as this doll's house outside, which is just so big. It's such, the default size of the doll house is huge, and it looks so much better when you size it down. It's just kind of perfect size when you size it down. You could even size it, I think here I've even sized it down twice, and it still looks good, So yeah, I don't know why that was made to be such a large object, but anyway, thank goodness we can size objects up and down, because there are quite a few objects that, are some of my favorite objects to work with, but I always have to change the size of them because they're kind of just ridiculous at whatever size they default to. And here's the little eating area, so they can spend their summers out here having dinners. They've got a small little barbecue, a little kind of fire standing heater thing. And only just recently, when I was actually doing a shell challenge, did I realize that object, that's the lemon or orange tree in the pot, that the default swatch is the one with the Chinese, it came with the Chinese New Year update. I only just recently realized that the other swatches don't have the little red pieces of paper hanging from the tree, and so you can just have it be a regular orange tree or a regular lemon tree, and that has completely changed my life. I'm so happy I discovered that, and now I love that object so much, and I try and use it all the time, because I don't necessarily want to have a fruit tree that has to be planted into the ground and that you have to take care of. Sometimes I just want to have a fruit tree that's there for aesthetics and that just looks pretty, because you get that, it's lovely to have a lot of green, but then the yellow or the orange or whatever of the fruit really breaks it up as well. So that was a game changer. I loved it. I wasn't really sure what to put here in this section. I struggled here a bit. There is a bit of footage as well, I think, that I had to cut out because, again, this video is probably a little longer than I would hope. I'd love to try and keep them at, 25 minutes max, but I'm just such a slow builder, and I couldn't get it any shorter than this. I really tried without having the video look really kind of janky and out of place. I didn't want it jumping around too much. I wanted you still to be able to see my process of building. So I'm sorry about that. That's why the video is so long. I need to just build more, as time goes on, and I have got the opportunity to build more. I think I will get a lot faster. Well, I hope I will get a lot faster, because I'm not really happy with, at the moment, the speed at which I build at. I really would like to be just not churning through the builds, but being able to build kind of one thing a week would be really good, at least. It is hard at the moment just because I'm juggling a lot of things, but if I can get faster at building, I think that it's possible to do one a week. But at the moment, I'm just so not used to doing a lot of building all the time. Since I've started this YouTube channel, I've realized how slow I am in general at building. I didn't realize I was quite so slow because I never had to present my builds to anyone on a regular basis. I was just really doing it for myself. So yeah, I'm really enjoying putting these videos on YouTube and getting your guys wonderful feedback. I really appreciate it. So yeah, if you do like it, please let me know, comment below, give me a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you're not already. Yeah, I'd love to build up a really fun community, supportive community of other simmers or non-simmers even. If I could convert someone who's not a simmer to playing The Sims, that'd be pretty amazing. But it's not for everyone. I get that. I also have quite a lot of games that I've neglected for so long because I've been doing this so much. So one day when I get a bit more time, I'm really excited to play a bit more of the other games that are just sitting there, not being played, and maybe incorporating some different games as well into my Twitch streaming. So I also play games like 2 Point Hospital. I love that. I haven't played it in so long. What else do I play? I play Cities Skylines. Again, I haven't played it in so long, but I just adore it and can spend hours and hours building a city on there. I also play some... I've just recently picked up Fortnite, which is really fun. And I'd love to go back and play a bit more Call of Duty, which I used to play quite a bit for a while last year, especially through lockdown. But I haven't played in a while. I feel like every time I go back to Call of Duty, there's a gigantic game update that takes like 2 hours to download. So sometimes that kind of puts me off. I just think, oh, there'll probably be an update and it'll take forever, so I won't play. Anyway, getting back to the build that we're watching. Now I'm working on the interior. Well, yeah, so I did the kitchen. You would have seen me do the kitchen, the laundry, and that separate toilet. And I definitely think I needed that separate toilet because that bathroom is quite cramped. And now I am working on the kitchen. You'll see at the moment the kitchen has got this bright yellow swatch for the counters, which I think looks incredible for this theme of home. So mid-century modern, if you don't really know the style very well. Well, I'm not an architect or a professional in this field, so I'm just sort of going by what I've observed in this style and photos and things. But it originated, I believe, around the 50s. It may have been late 50s. I'm not entirely sure. But it is a lot of these browns, wood textures and tones, and then colours like yellow, beige, brown all together. So that's why I really liked this yellow for the kitchen. I thought it was really indicative of that time. But you'll actually see me change all the counters soonish. I changed them to a light brown beige colour. And that was just because I was feeling like if I were to build an old style, kind of not updated home from the 50s, then it would have been perfect. But really the idea that I had behind this home is that it was built in that time, so it had the exterior of that time, and the family, or the parents in particular, loved that style of build. But they're now living in modern, today's time, so they have sort of slowly updated the home. So they've probably replaced a few of the fittings, and they've updated it slightly, but still tried to maintain a mid-century modern vibe without it looking too retro. if that makes sense. So there's certainly some pretty garish elements, but I've tried to pair those kinds of elements with more sleek, modern objects and colors so that it's not too overpowering and too outdated. So for example, the wall behind the dining room table is that brown wallpaper with those large kind of circles of other browns. It's just all kinds of loads of different shades of brown, which is very 50s. I think it might have come with the bowling stuff pack, which I used a lot of in this build. Bowling stuff pack, and the other pack that was really great for this kind of style is Get Famous. They had loads of mid-century modern objects as well. Yeah. So what was I saying? So the brown wallpaper, I've never ever used it because it is horrible. But I think it works because I use it in such a small section of the home. The colours are they don't clash with anything. They sort of go with the other browns of the wood and in the kitchen. And then I've also tried to keep the dining table, the chairs, and the artwork on the wall fairly sleek and modern looking. So I think it works. I don't think it looks sort of too horrible. I think it looks of the period that I'm trying to reflect without being kind of over the top retro. And then similar to the carpet that I placed in the living room, I loved doing the sunken room, by the way. I love that split level. And when we got the ability to do that in The Sims, that was another kind of big game changer for me. I just thought, yeah, in terms of, because I love building, those sorts of elements make it so much easier to create really special, different builds. And I've seen some people use it to some really, really great effect. As I said, I haven't really played around with it that much yet, but yeah, it's just so cool. Yeah, so the carpet in this living room, I've never ever used that carpet in any of the colour swatches, but it was perfect for this. It's quite old-fashioned. It sort of reminds me of some of the carpet that was in my grandma's house. But then I've tried to keep the furniture fairly modern, so there's those really lovely modern shelves along the back wall. There's, I think some of the other elements are fairly modern, so it doesn't make it look too old and outdated. Then I move on to the sort of family room area that I mentioned earlier. So this house has got a couple of different living areas, and I feel like this area here, the one with all the brown tones and sort of browns and yellows and the green with the plants, I love it so much, and the big box of toys, that's probably kind of an entertaining living area. So if you've got guests over, you might be cooking dinner for them, and then they can just be having a drink sitting on the sofa and chatting to you or something. The other thing I wanted to put in this house is some kind of a study, and normally I try and create an entire office room for my Sims. But once I put the house together, I realized that there wasn't actually much space for another room for one. So I've just placed it beside this other living space, kind of quite in the open plan dining living office area. And maybe they don't really work from home a lot. Maybe they just use it as a family computer space. I wanted to use one of those sort of slightly older computers just so it didn't look too out of place. And then I move on to the parents' room, which again is pretty orange and yellow and brown again. A lot of the objects as I said, they're from Get Famous, so the dress is from Get Famous. Pretty sure the bed is from Get Famous as well, with that great headboard that's super mid-century modern. I often get confused actually from between some of the pieces from Bowling Stuff and Get Famous, because they are some quite similar styles. So I just left the parents' room fairly simply decorated. I didn't want to clutter it too much because that carpet is so loud and in your face. So I wanted, it to be, again, still somewhat elegant style while being pretty colourful. And then I move on to the it's sort of an ensuite, but it's an ensuite that's shared between the parents and the toddler's room. So I figure this would be because the parents would want to be able to access the toddler's room easily. If there's any disasters during the night, they can whip the toddlers straight into the bathroom, and also because the main bathroom of the house is so small, I wanted to make sure I included another bathroom that was sizable, so people weren't queuing to use the bathroom in the house. Next is the toddler's room. So I again kept to the theme of sort of 50s mid-century modern vibe without being too hideous in the colour, in the different colours that I used. I kept to, so my sort of colour theme for this room, I was thinking blue and yellow were the two colours I wanted to focus on. So picking out lots of objects to reflect that. And then this is the first time as well that I've used the absolutely adorable play tent for toddlers. It's so cute, but it is huge. It takes up a lot of space in that bedroom. So I didn't have a lot of room for anything else really, just a few kind of decor items along the other wall, put a few pieces of furniture and cluttered up the surface space. And then the last room I work on the main floor is the child's room. And I don't know if I really had a boy or girl in mind for this. I just knew I wanted a colour scheme of blue and orange. And so I tried to pick out pieces that reflected that. I didn't realise these height charts, you could use them on the doors. And I loved that. I thought that worked really, really well. So a lot of activities in there for the kid as well, and a desk and a computer. And so that kid's pretty lucky. And finally, I work on this little basement space, which I'm really proud of. I think it would be such a cool hangout spot. The parents, once they've put the kids to bed, they could have their friends come around for a game of Don't Wake the Llama and drinks and watch some telly, play some darts. And then when the kids grow up, maybe it becomes kind of a teen hangout spot. I loved it. So I made it a little bit maybe less cared for. The walls are a bit more grungy, the carpet's maybe a little sticky. And then that's the build basically. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe. You can also follow me on Twitch, Twitter and Instagram, all at KiwiSimsKate. Thank you so much for watching and take care out there. Bye.